I'm going to go ahead and call to order this meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Public comment will occur during the public comment portion of the meeting and is done via raising your hand remotely or in person. During public comment, once acknowledged, please state your name and ward so that it can be included in the minutes, and please limit your time to 3 minutes. Public comment is governed by policy BEDH. Are there any additions or deletions from the agenda? Oh, sorry, I skipped right over. Thank you. I'm going to suspend this board meeting for a moment, please. And I'm going to call to order, thank you, a public hearing on the authorization to use Contingency Fund RSA 198.4B to pay for unanticipated school care assessment up to $1,033,216.68. Is there any public comment on this public hearing? None. Is there any online?
There is none online.
Okay. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Then we will reopen the public board meeting. Apologies. Thank you for catching that. Okay. Any additions to the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to move item 10A to after the consent agenda.
Perfect.
Second, I'd like to table 8A1, which is a policy, and to when we can get the Lebanon High School sports injury plan to go with it. And finally, I'd like
9A1.
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
9A1?
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, 9A1. And finally, I would like to add a school care update and a monthly expenditure report to the business administrator update.
Okay. Update and monthly expenditure. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Public comment. We'll open up the floor for public comment. Is there any in the room? Do not see any. Is there any online?
There is none online.
Okay. We will reopen public comment at the end of the meeting, which brings us to our student report.
Hi, how was everybody's Wednesday?
Good.
All right. So I'm not sure how much you guys have heard about this, but today council talked with Mr. Smith about changing some of our handbook wording for the phone policy usage, however you feel fit. And so have you guys heard about it? I didn't know if I just...
You can talk. Go ahead and talk about it. Most of them haven't.
Well, obviously, I have my phone in my pocket right now, but, people are carrying their phones in pockets and using them in bathrooms. So Mr. Smith and Mr. Tyndall told us they just wanted to change the wording a little bit and asked us our opinions about it. Sounded all good to us. We think it would probably better fit because we all know that people are kind of working their way around it. So that should change. And then our council retreat. Last year we brought back the council retreat, which is a day where council leaves school and goes to, usually we go to the Howe Library, and we kind of just have a prolonged council meeting where we have more time to split into our subcommittees and work on things like Winterfest and whatnot. So that will be next Wednesday, the 19th. But I don't know if we have admin approval yet, so we're working on that one. So Kalyani and Mary, I don't know her last name, from Hanover, have been in contact about a wellness walk in May for both of the high schools to come together. And the original plan was to do a walk from a Lebanon area to a Hanover area, but after today, I think we're gonna do a loop in Hanover, and then we're trying to make this an annual thing, so next year we do a loop in Lebanon. And this is being sponsored by Positive Tracks, which is a program that helps students or people just take a exercise and make it into something bigger for profit. So what we're struggling with here is Positive Tracks only gives you so much funding. We have, so for every head, I don't know how to phrase this, like leader of the walk, they give you $150. So originally it was Kalyani and Mary, and they added Caleb and I, so we could get more funding, and then it's $150 additional for just running and signing up. So we were thinking that if we could reach out to Lebanon, like our community, and get businesses to come and set up stands so we wouldn't have to pay for like food and whatnot. We were thinking about a like sponsorship packet for them where obviously they get something in return for helping us. And so we were just wondering your thoughts on that. And we didn't know if we were actually allowed to, because we know there's a rule on sponsorship and getting money from like businesses.
If you guys want to schedule time, I can come back to council and we can review some of those opportunities and look at maybe some partnerships in the community for you.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect. I'll talk with council and we'll email you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. That's all.
Any questions? All sounds great. Thank you. We're excited. All right, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Okay, correspondence.
Yeah, we got one letter from the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central and Northern New Hampshire, and I will just read the letter to everyone. It feels important to read the whole thing. So, it says, I am writing to you to start a conversation on a partnership with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central and Northern New Hampshire that would potentially utilize land adjacent to the SAU building for a new child care facility. We would also like to explore potential utilization of space in the existing SAU building. This venture would be in partnership with the City of Lebanon. As you may know, the city was awarded $1.6 million from a federally directed appropriation for a child care facility. What I am seeking as a first step is the school board's permission to conduct an architectural and engineering study so that we will have the information we need to see if this project is feasible. The request is somewhat time sensitive as we have to report back to HUD, the source of the initial funds, to provide them with the basic work plan. We would like to have an architect and engineer conduct a preliminary survey of the area in early December with the hopes of receiving an LOI from the district by the end of the year. We are seeking additional support to cover the costs of the architect and engineer's preliminary work from local foundations. The HUD funds would cover construction. We understand that there is a study process already underway and respect this process. However, please let us know if this timeline does not work for the district, as we will need to continue to search for an alternative location to meet our time constraints. We look to you for guidance on how this process can move forward. Thank you, and please let me know if you have any questions. From the Christopher CEO.
Thank you. Back to that. Consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from October 22nd, 2025.
Second that.
John, second by Richard. Are there any corrections? Yeah. Okay. All those in favor? Great, unanimous. And then we need a motion for the nomination.
I'll make a motion that we approve the nominations as attached.
Okay.
Second.
John, second by Richard. Is
One nomination.
just replacing someone.
Yes, replacing a teacher that resigned.
Okay. Any questions about that? Okay. All those in favor of approving the nomination? Thank you. All right. That brings us to We're going to move to discussion on acknowledging and accepting the donation of $10,000 from the Jack and Dorothy Byrne Foundation for English horn for the LHS Music Department. And we have someone here to speak about this. You press the button, it'll turn on. There you go.
Hello, my name is Grace Dontremont. I'm a junior at LHS and the double reed section leader in the LHS band. I've been playing the oboe since 5th grade. The oboe is one of 3 instruments in the double reed family. Double reed instruments are unique in that they have 2 pieces of cane that make up the mouthpiece. You may know of the bassoon, which is really long and has a much lower range. And there's also the English horn, which is basically a bigger version of the oboe. Since the English horn is so similar to the oboe, it is a common doubling for oboe players. I had the opportunity to play the English horn last year during the Lebanon All-District Band concert when we played Strange Humors. Strange Humors is a really fantastic piece that prominently features the English horn. However, since the high school didn't have an English horn, we had to borrow one from Pinkerton Academy in Derry. Looking back on this performance, I considered how LHS might get our own English horn, and as a result, I wrote a letter to the Byrne Foundation asking for a contribution to purchase an English horn. Ms. Byrne generously donated the $10,000 we've requested, and if the board accepts this donation, future Lebanon oboists will be able to share in the opportunity I was so fortunate to have. Additionally, we would be able to lend the English horn to other schools nearby that are in need of an English horn, much like Pinkerton Academy did with us last year. An English horn can last decades, meaning this donation has the potential to touch generations of musicians. In order to guarantee the quality of the instrument, Mr. DeFrancisco and I are working with Jason Smoller to purchase the best English horn possible. Jason is a professional oboist and English horn player who comes in to help with the double reed section throughout the year. By approving this donation, the board has the opportunity to benefit countless musicians for many years to come. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just wanted to say my sister was an oboist. I know it is a finicky and delicate group and family, so it's really great that the Byrne Foundation has been so generous to give you this experience, and we're really happy that you're playing so much.
And thank you for taking the initiative and for providing something that's going to benefit other students besides yourself, which we also really appreciate, and it's a long-lasting benefit too. Anything else want to say? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we need for acknowledging. Yeah, we need a motion. Acknowledge.
I motion to acknowledge the
And accept.
donation.
And accept the donation.
And accept the donation.
All right, motion by Layla, second by Richard. And as usual, I just want to say specifically, huge thanks to the Jack and Dorothy Byrne Foundation for their ongoing generosity and support of this district in all ways, from double reeded instruments all the way to everything else under the sun. So we really appreciate them. Any other comments on this? All right, all those in favor of acknowledging and accepting donation? Unanimous. All right, great. Thank you very much. Okay, that's going to take us back to 8A, so the Superintendent Strategic Plan Board report.
Thank you. Since our next meeting is the annual budget work meeting, I am going to give our strategic plan update a meeting earlier. So I just wanted to highlight all the great things that are happening within our schools. In the area of Grow Our Students, we are looking forward to the upcoming production of Water for Elephants by our wet paint players, as well as many of the holiday concerts that are coming up in the days ahead. For the first time, the wet paint players partnered with the Upper Valley Circus Collective. This is an exciting opportunity that will help give our students new creative experiences and also highlights the value of community partnerships in the arts. Second, I'd like to commend our Take Flight students who recently represented Lebanon at the Aviation Museum Gala. Junior Ian Denlin-Lucier delivered an inspiring speech to the crowd, exemplifying strong communication skills and leadership and a true reflection of our vision of a learner in action. In addition, students Sadie Thibodeau, Mallory Esba, and Shaya Karidina presented at the Women's Club of Lebanon last week. And tonight we heard from Grace D'Entremont, who wrote a grant to secure an English horn for our music program. Grace's initiative demonstrates not only exceptional written communication, but also her commitment to being a responsible local and global citizen. These are just a few examples of the fantastic work being done within our district. Each story highlights how our students are growing academically, artistically, and personally as we strive to deliver a strong, competitive, and learner-centered education that prepares every student to succeed in a rapidly changing world. Next, in the area of Grow Our Educators, under this pillar, I'm pleased to share that the Lebanon School District was one of only 8 districts across the country that were selected to attend the Lifted Conference for Innovation in Denver, Colorado. This 3-day experience was both inspiring and thought-provoking, providing our team with fresh perspectives and innovative ideas to enhance our learner-centered practices across our schools. Our participation reinforces our commitment to innovation, continuous learning, and educator growth, ensuring that all of our staff are equipped to design meaningful and engaging learning experiences for every student. I put together a brief slideshow highlighting the key moments and takeaways from this experience. As you can see, it was hosted in Longmont, California at the end of October. Longmont has an interesting story to had. I think in about 2009, they were going through some financial crisis. At that point, school choice was being introduced into the state, and they had some tough decisions to make. They had budget cuts, and they took the opportunity to redesign their learning spaces. This district of St. Vrain was 35,000 students, so quite larger than our Lebanon community, but we were able to get a real feel of their school operations, their SAU leadership, and heard from students and superintendents and principal. This is the team that went. So Leah Whalen, myself, Dr. Robinson, Katie Roach, Karen Dubois, and Tom Harkins. As I mentioned before, 8 districts were invited, and then they asked if I was to be on a panel to speak about innovation in our state and sharing our stories across the country. So that's a brief opportunity. Picture here of that presentation. Oops, thank you. Next slide. The keynote was done by the superintendent of the district. Her name is Jackie Kapushin. And it was delivering a strong competitive advantage. This really kind of hit home in the time of open enrollment and really telling our stories about public education and supporting that public education mission. So also in day 1, we got to go through this Innovation Center tour. This Innovation Center, very similar, but larger than a career and technical center. And I listed some of the programs there that they have. And these programs are constantly evolving and changing and responding to their community and business needs. As I mentioned, I participated on a superintendent panel. And finally, at the end, we had a keynote on sustaining innovation and excellence. And really, they gave us all key takeaways and opportunities for us to kind of develop a plan and thinking about that context in Colorado, how it relates to New Hampshire. And then we had an opportunity for some student highlights. Day 2, day 2 highlights. We heard from Chief Innovation Strategist from Education Lenovo, and she gave a very passionate and helpful speech on our AI and education journey. She is someone that Karen and I are looking to see if we could bring to New Hampshire to do presentations for the school board, the community, and our faculty. She started really about our ethical responsibility about teaching our students around AI use, and we all left there feeling very confident that this was the message and this is the starting point where we needed to go with this district. Other breakout sessions, which we all sort of divided and conquered, reframing the narrative of public education and finding your district's voice, blurring the lines between K-12 and workforce development, learning through PTech and PTeach. That is very similar to the program that we have where they're creating a pathway for now students to para to teachers. Creating community partnerships, creating a guaranteed viable curriculum, and strengthening the AI literacy across the curriculum. After that, we were able to do some school site visits. So there were 4 options. Skyline High School, which has the PTech and the Focus programs, which I think Mr. Harkins went to. Career and Elevation Technology Center. Soaring Heights, pre-K to 8 STEM neuroscience focus. This was a program that Leah Whalen and I went to. It was amazing. Really focused on the vision of a learner and those key critical skills that we have and building them intentionally into the curriculum. And finally, the Longmont Estate program, which is an elementary STEM school. After that, they gave us an opportunity to do a debrief. So next slide. So during this visit of Soaring Heights, it's a pre-K to 8 STEM neuroscience focused school. One of the key facts is each classroom attends 1 innovation special per week in a makerspace room. The use of AI was intentionally embedded in the curriculum, and they developed an ethos around AI use and the ethical implications. And they had the focus on the neuroscience in translating in social emotional lessons on flexible thinking, perseverance, neuroplasticity, and flexibility and executive function. Next. Again, these are some of the focus areas, and I wanted us to include, these are the ones that they are gauging with their business partners and community partners out in Denver, that they told them that they would love to see students with quantum computing, space innovation, data science, and human performance, motion, and capture. Innovation Center, this is one of the classes of the Innovation Center. Very hands-on learning, great stuff going on there. Students are able to go there, very similar to our Hartford Career and Technical Center for a part of their day. And this is the only Innovation Center within that district. So it is busy and it is growing. This is the national perspective. Well, this was pretty amazing. These were drone shows done by the students. So they have a pretty extensive drone program at their district. And at the bottom of the picture of the United States is where all the districts that were represented. So they put on a 15-minute drone show that was pretty spectacular. And the students have been doing this for their community. This gave us kind of ideas about how to enhance our existing drone program and just some of the possibilities that we can do. But it was pretty spectacular. Another slide of the mountains and then the final from there. So the students were very professional and very excited to show us this at night. Next slide. So interestingly enough, they are also building an RV-12 within their innovation center. They are not working with Tango Flight, but they do have a very similar flight similar that we do. So we are excited to kind of see that in parallel process of what was going on out there. Interesting, they don't sell their planes, they donate them, so they don't have that partnership where we do. And one of the other pieces of Colorado, they're heavily funded with corporate sponsorships and other school funding mechanisms that we don't have at our access in New Hampshire. Design thinking process was something evident in all of the classrooms that you saw from pre-K to 12 is really that inquiry-based piece. And when we were talking and debriefing about this experience, what we found is this just really kind of resonates with our vision of our learner and our vision of our graduate. So it's things that we're already doing, but you're seeing this in action and really in-depth learning. Asset-based approach, so they see their environment through a lens of strength and opportunity and believe every person is capable and responsible for achieving and contributing at high level. So we spent some time just really about messaging around schools and how you can use our existing channels of Facebook and school websites, but be creating that brand and telling that story of great things that happen in public education. So sometimes I find education we don't like to brag about ourselves a lot, but they really gave us some tools for our toolbox about how to use this asset-based approach about the great things that are happening in public ed. So next steps for the SAU, the elementary schools met on November 6th, and actually we're meeting again tomorrow to debrief and create an action plan to strengthen our STEM offerings. The middle school is exploring career planning and aligning essential arts curriculum to potential pathways. And the high school is exploring the creation of a career advisory board and a potential intersect with current and future course offerings, such as entrepreneurship and cybersecurity courses. So these were 2 courses that were introduced out there that are coming through the College Board, through AP, that when students go through and pass the test, they will actually get industry certification in addition to college credit if they score the 3, 4, and a 5. I think this is pretty exciting, especially within the cybersecurity world, where students out there who have got this industry certification have gone in directly to workforce and then did college at the same time. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to kind of look at our current course offerings, evaluate what we have, and see what we can enhance. And then finally, the SAU staff is pursuing AI training. We do have a meeting, I believe, next week with one of the vendors we met out there. And as I mentioned before, we would love to have that speaker come out to speak to our community. And then we are also going to strengthen our communication and branding through action plans. Any questions on the Colorado experience before I go on to grow our systems?
What exactly do they expect grades pre-K to 8 to do with quantum computing?
Oh, that's at their innovation center, so it's their high school.
Okay.
That would be their high school certification.
Okay, but also,
They're really, but they started really with that inquiry-based and design learning right at preschool and kindergarten. So
Wow.
having kids, they were programming little bots in kindergarten, pretty amazing, and just small steps and color designs. And then really they were embedding what their vision of a learner, their same language in there, and it was this common language and problem solving. It was pretty amazing to see these 5-year-olds in work. So just the
Yeah, that's
opportunities that could lie ahead. So.
okay. I'm glad you got to see that. That's wild.
Finally, grow our systems. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of our staff, administrators, and board members have been working through this budget process. We know we're going to have tough decisions ahead on the 22nd, but we are going to continue to let our strategic plan guide our work and always keeping our students at the center of our learning and decision making. Finally, I would like to thank Tim Ball, our business administrator, for his time, expertise, and dedication throughout this process. He is a veteran who also worked yesterday, so I want to, again, thank him for his service and his commitment to the Lebanon School District. We are certainly fortunate to have him leading this important work. Finally, talking about our family and community partnerships, we continue to strengthen our communication and deepen our partnerships to support our student and families. I'm excited to highlight a new collaboration with Dartmouth College, where faculty and students are working with our English learner teachers on design thinking approaches to improve communication and make resources more accessible to our English learners families. Last week, we had a great international potluck at Mount Lebanon School. It was truly an evening filled with joy, excitement, entertainment, and really delicious food. Ben Nestor can attest to it. I think he tried it all. So it was a really great event, and very excited about it. And it's held yearly at Mount Lebanon School. And then in the high school, they do more of a high school focused international night. Since arriving in the district, I've been meeting regularly with our district PTO leads who have been instrumental in building communication and community across all schools. This incredible group planned and implemented the first ever Lebanon PTO Craft Fair this weekend. It's a joint fundraiser that brought together families, staff, and local artists. The event was a tremendous success and now will become an annual event. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to parents, volunteers, staff, facilities team members that worked, and the crafters who made it possible. Finally, actually, this was the highlight of my day besides being here this evening. Today was National NCAA Division I Signing Day. Today, we had 2 senior athletes signing their college commitment letters. I'd like to congratulate Annie Hanna, who will be Nordic skiing for University of Vermont, and to Peyton Rutherford, who will be rowing for Rutgers in the fall. I hope to bring them to a meeting in the near future where we can recognize their accomplishments. And that concludes the superintendent update.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments for the superintendent? I wanted to also say congratulations to Annie and Peyton. I was working today and couldn't go, and so I sent my son as the representative of my family because he is both a Nordic skier and a rower, and so he was invested in both of their journeys, so it's really good, and they had some great pictures, and they seemed really happy, so congratulations to them. Anything?
I had one question. It goes back to your conference experience. What made something a maker space room in that pre-K to 8 school?
Oh, could you tell me that first part of the question?
What made something a maker space room?
Like, what's it include of?
Yes.
So there's Legos, there's little robots, there's art, there's design, and there's lessons that are developmentally appropriate for each level that get students to work on critical thinking, building, communication, collaboration, and lots of problem solving, I would say, during that time. So,
Would you say you observed it was just more it was kind of like surprisingly physical what the kids were doing most
it
of
was
the time?
very engaging. It was loud, which is exciting. You know, when a classroom is loud and lots of learning's going on. But we saw the 5-year-olds in action, and they were solving their own problems. They were programming robots. And then they'd come up and explain to the teacher when they would like a harder code to learn. So, and then they showed us the other activities they do, like around Lego building and kind of designing little roller coasters for the older grades in the elementary, and bridges and things like that. So it was a great way to build a STEM program at that early age through hands-on experiences.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? Okay, great, thank you. All right, so, okay. All right, we're gonna move on to the business administrator updates, various things.
Yeah, we'll start with chapter 4. It's up on the screen. Ends here for the special ed piece. I don't know how we ended up doing 2 different things, but what we do. So the first part of this food services. Next slide. This is just an overview of food services. This is we have a food service fund. This is not part of the general fund unless there's money to be made up. But we offer breakfast and lunch. We run a fresh fruit and vegetable program. That is a year-by-year determination of qualification based on a number of factors, including free and reduced lunch eligibility, but that's not the only factor. Both Mount Leb and Hanover Street qualify this year. So what that means is that the government pays for like a fresh fruit snack time in the morning. Mount Leb has traditionally budgeted for that. And if they qualify, because there was one year they didn't, then that money doesn't get. Our food services is under contract, so we are always the district, the entity that's responsible in the eyes of the state, but we contract with the Cafe Services. It's now called Whitson's Culinary Group out of New York, Long Island, I think. We're required by law to put out an RFP at least every 5 years. Whitson's put together a detailed budget. We buy the food, we maintain the kitchen, and we pay for all the operations costs. All the revenue comes to us. I say this because it's easy to get confused. When a parent pays for lunch, that money comes to the Lebanon School District. We hold all the funds. We pay the contractor a management fee. It's a multi-year. The RFP is multi-year, up to 5, annually renewable. We went out to bid in spring of 2023, so we're ending our second year or third year. Anyway, food services must, the account must end the year in the black. So if we're, just repeat, but we're, that a fund, if we take in less revenue than we spend, general fund makes up the difference. Next slide, please. So in FY25, here are the meals were served. We're not going to go over them in detail, but you can see altogether between breakfast and lunch across all the district, we served 117. Next slide. Revenues, there's 2 years of revenues here. You can see we brought in about $50,000 more. I can answer any questions, and obviously the money's up. Someone asked about a la carte. You did do double the amount of a la carte. A la carte is food that's not a reimbursable meal. It's, I want to go buy a cheeseburger or something. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously. We can set whatever rate we want. This is revenue, so we raised the prices and we're selling more. It took a big dip through and after COVID. So that's good news. We brought in $784,881.97. Next slide, you'll see.
Sorry, can you tell me what the nutrition means in this table?
I'm
It's a
sorry.
where it says state child nutrition and federal child nutrition, can you tell me what that means in this table?
That's money we get from the different entities. We get a little bit from the state, but mostly from the federal. So $39,000 for breakfast from the federal, and the big one, the federal child nutrition, 184. That's lunch. Sorry, yep. And the state, I believe that's breakfast. I should identify that. But if you reduce breakfast, your free breakfast, the state makes it. Here's our expenditures of 787, 487. Before you get too excited, I should have pointed out on that revenue page, the last line there is an operating transfer of $67,244. Can you go back a slide? Yeah. On the bottom right, in the revenues, you'll see an operating transfer in 23-24 of $93,000. That's money from the general fund to make up a deficit. You see 24-25, it was 67,000, so that's good. It's good that it's better. Now, if you go to expenditures, it's even better than that, because we had to fix some pretty serious repairs in the food service program last year that should be generally one-time repairs. The $31,753. That's around, I think about $25,000 of that was to fix the freezer, the walk-in freezer at the high school. You see an equipment lease of $5,000 on that line. It's because we had to lease a walk-in freezer while the regular freezer was broken. So, considering we transferred $63,000 and we have $36,000 of it one-time expenses, you can see we did pretty decently. We're moving in the right direction. We went from $93,000, which was purely sales versus operating costs, to $63,000, and half of that was hopefully one-time repairs. Although you will see in the budget when we talk about that on the Saturday that there's some money in there to fix the walk-in cooler, or to fix it before it breaks, so we don't have what we had this past year. Those coolers, as you might imagine, are 30, 35 years old. Any questions about the expenditures?
Do we have much hope of a year-over-year further improvement?
I think, I don't want to sound too, I'm Mr. Cynical, but from when I got here in 2014 to COVID, we made money or we were in the black every year. So it's only been since the end of COVID that we haven't been. So
Okay.
I think as things steady out, I don't see why we wouldn't.
That's great news.
And I know Cafe Services or Whitson's has done a good job too. When balances get so low, they are sending out those notices too. And then at our December meeting, you'll see a donation from Fuji Films that made a large donation for us to go down to pay towards debt at the end of next year. So
That's lovely.
Good thing to point out, as you know, we do not deny someone a reimbursable meal when they come through the line. So it can lead, and then we do send out weekly emails, monthly letters, but we don't have a huge way to collect on debt except for the honesty of people who can pay and donations. So we're doing all we can do. Next slide, please. Breakfasts, or here's prices of breakfast and lunch. Prices are set essentially by the government. So if you take free and reduced meals, they tell you what that rate would be, and then they tell you what your cash price can be too. So, and it can go up a little bit, but it can only go up a certain amount. So, they give us a whole calculator for it, and they say the max you can raise is this. And we don't always go to the max because, you know, it might say 50 cents and we'll go up a quarter. We make a decision between Shaylee and myself as far as going up what we can without being a shock to the system. But so if you're an adult, you pay $4.75. It's pretty good lunch. So advertisement, buy food at the district that helps your taxpaying friends. Free and reduced lunch, obviously it's determined locally using a chart given to us by the state. We get audited at least every 3 years by the state. We have a process where one person processes the free and reduced lunch. Only that person sees everybody's income. I do a sample of sort of high error things, but and then verify that the math she did was right. With 348 students, which is 21% of the student population, the state average is 24%. The last slide is not updated from last year, and this goes into the next things we need to talk about. But this is the tax rates from 2012 to 2024. Usually 2025 would be on there, but city tax rate has not been set, which is why you've not gotten a tax bill. We'll talk more about that. Now we're going to move into special education, unless you have any more questions for me. Come on up. Come on down. I believe the slides up here are slightly different than the ones in your. Turn it on.
Yep, I can point the differences out when we get there. So the first slide, everyone is familiar with. I think you've seen these in past budget cycles. 271 students at present have IEPs in our district. The out-of-district numbers, which is obviously important to consider, especially during budget season, is a total of 19, 10 of which are placed by the district, meaning we can't meet their needs in district, and so we place them in a special ed private school. 6 students are placed by the court or the state of New Hampshire for various reasons, and then 3 students are in foster placements out of Lebanon. And so those students, in most cases, attend the public school where their foster family lives, whether that's Concord, Manchester, or so on. And these numbers are the same overall when compared to last year. Next slide, please. So we changed this slide a little bit. We worked with Jack in terms of making it more clear. There is a bit more language on it. So this slide has to do with special education revenues, specifically special education aid. And just for those that are new on the board, the state of New Hampshire, for students that are extraordinarily expensive to serve, the state does give us reimbursement to help offset those costs. And I will just the three bullet points in the middle there, I included some historical data with Tim's help that I think is helpful. So FY24, these were expenses that occurred in 22-23. You can see that we were reimbursed $150,000. We budgeted $192,000, and then the following year, reimbursement came in at $251,000. And we budgeted a little bit under that. And then this fiscal year 26, you can see that we're receiving a reimbursement of around $500,000, and we only budgeted $100,000. So that's a really nice thing to see, I think, in light of the increased health insurance costs and so on. So that's additional monies we weren't expecting. Go ahead, Tim, sorry.
I was going to say, so how that works is that this time last year, we were budgeting $100,000 in special ed revenue. So when you're doing the budget last year, the revenue sheets in your binder last year said 100,000. We just got word we're gonna get 491,776. So when your tax rate is set, it's based on 491,776. So $400,000 more in non-local income is coming in, which that makes your local tax rate $400,000 less, which is, I don't know what that would be, because I don't know the assessed value.
I can't help but point out that the numbers budgeted and the numbers reimbursed have very little to do with one another.
I
Why
typically,
is it so unpredictable?
so two things have happened. So typically, what I typically have done is budgeted at or near what we got. So in this year's budget, I put in 491,776. We get a little bit more precise numbers, and I'll have them for you. Usually I'll have them by the budget meeting, but it's you never really know what you're going to get the next year because it's November, and it's reimbursed based on through the end of June. So that's one challenge. So the challenge is and some districts have gotten themselves in trouble by overestimating. So $100,000 is admittedly a little low. I was going off of the 153.20 we got. The other thing that happened is they did change the law. So this is the first year, I believe, where there's a law. One good thing that happened in Concord was that they used to have this dollar amount and they prorated it. It came out to around 60%. Some of the words up there talk about that. It was usually prorated to or at below 70% of what you're supposed to get. There's a formula how much you're supposed to get, and the state can just say, okay, well, this is how much money we're getting and divide it out, and it doesn't even come to that. The law that was passed this past legislative session requires that the state fund districts at least 80% of what they're entitled to, which is 20% higher than typically we got. So we will be able to budget a little higher because there's that definite floor of 80%. And the 491 actually is the floor, the 80% floor, I believe.
This may sound like a silly question. Why are they allowed to pay us less than 100% of what we're entitled to?
Welcome to New Hampshire.
Right, but
Not a problem we can
I
solve.
guess I would try to explain it this way. The law says these expenses are what's reimbursable. But then separately from that, the legislature's passing a budget, and for special ed aid, they may say there's $1 billion. And they don't really look at those. They don't look at how much money they need under what has to be collected. They just look at this is how much money we're giving. And that leaves the Department of Education to prorate whatever they give them based on how much you're supposed to get. It shouldn't happen, but it does.
So, I guess this is something I'm not sure if we do this all the time or not, but I guess I would like to call into question our use of the word revenue relating to special ed monies, because I guess unless I'm misunderstanding something, these are reimbursements. Reimbursements are reductions in expenses. They're not revenues. And I think that I feel like our revenue is, I feel like we, just in terms of, as we think about our budget overall, this is less an issue in terms of like how you do your sort of, and more about like, as we think about our budget and revenue, one of the things that we've been looking at is increasing revenues in the district and sort of how can we, bring more students in, bring more money into the district, et cetera. That is, I think, unless I'm misunderstanding something, that's very different than getting reimbursements for money that we are paying out on behalf of students, where we're actually getting less back than we're paying almost all the time, because we're only getting reimbursed at less than we paid out. So I guess just this is less of a technical how you internally do the accounting question, and more of a communication and understanding difference that this is only kind of revenue. It's a reimbursement, which is different. In business, you wouldn't count reimbursements as revenue.
Well, I would say two things. One, I get your point. I don't necessarily disagree with it. I would say, I guess technically, and maybe this is just budget, but I think it's businessy. This is a different accounting period. So a reimbursement would have to come in the same accounting period, which this money comes in based on expenditures last year. So you really shouldn't call it a reimbursement in the truest sense of the word, because it's completely different time frame.
But I think
I think your bigger point, I agree with, and The only challenge I have is that I'm always trying to figure out, and you guys obviously, it's your budget, you have to sell it to, but always trying to figure out what the best terminology is. In the eyes of the state, this is revenue. We have an expenditure budget and revenues that offset those expenditures. And this is money in that offsets the money you're spending out.
This is not a sort of like, I'm not challenging the veracity of the fact that like when money comes in a different period than it is reimbursed, you have to account for it in a certain way. But I do think it's important to recognize that that's a technical and that's partly to do with the way that we are because we are reimbursed in the following year. If they did it faster, it would not be, it wouldn't be that way. So I think that that's kind of that's something to consider separately. In terms of what we think of as revenue, money that we have brought in, this does not, I would say we should not be thinking of this as like, yay, we got money back. So I think like to Ben's kind of statement that like, yay, we brought money in, like that's good in light of the healthcare conversation, I would argue, no, this is completely unrelated. These are totally separate issues. And I think, yes, it's always wonderful when our administrators get money back for us that we need to get back. Please continue doing that with all of your energy. But it is distinct from us actually, like looking at our projections for revenues, we have some good stories that we can tell about revenue in terms of we are actually bringing more students more tuition paying students into the district. Like those I would say are real revenues. We are generating income to the district, which helps reduce our tax rate. This, I would argue, is not really that. If we had 0 special education students, we would have 0, like it's not revenue. And I think as we look at our budgets, we do want to be clear about those differences as we think about our taxpayers. So that's different than administratively when the money comes in and when it goes out.
But we have already paid for it in the previous year's budget, so it is revenue from the year's budget.
Yes, but it's not, revenue is
It's
a,
I mean,
It's.
go ahead. Go ahead.
May I? Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, you or Tim. I think when I get excited about seeing that big increase there in this fiscal year, what that says to me is that that's less money that we have to ask our taxpayers to raise to fund positions. Is that fair to say, Tim?
Right. And when this budget was passed, the budget we're in now was passed last November, when we talked about it last November, passed in March, we told the local voters that there's $100,000 you don't need to come up with. And in actuality, there's $491,000 you don't need to come up with in your local tax bill. So that is, I probably said that more confusing than you just did. Yeah.
I mean, I think it is, first of all, it's confusing, but second of all, it's also semantics, right? It's also like, as Jessica was saying, it's accounting versus narrative, which are two separate things in a lot of ways. So I mean, it's a good point, and I think we can sort of massage that at some point. But I think to Ben's point, and to what Tim was just saying, it is sort of, this is something that is changing the tax rate. So in that way, when we say yay, we're always saying that's good. However, Jessica's point, overall point is good, is that these expenses will still exist and we will still be paying them, and we are still
they are still
paying.
higher than the amounts of money
Yes,
that, so I
that
think
we are-
like that's
yeah.
the part that I'm sort of want to put the point on. Like
Yeah.
the amounts of money that we are spending are higher than the amounts of money we are getting reimbursed.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's
yeah.
a really important thing to
Well,
remember.
and I think that goes back to our
Absolutely.
ongoing conversation
Yeah.
about state aid, right? The state
Right.
aid is not adequate in
But if-
special education and any other
if we
places.
say, I'm going to give you $10 and you give me back $8 next year, and then we call that $8 like, yay, we got $8, I would say that is not good. That is not a good understanding of the financial transaction that has taken place.
Okay, I think that's good.
Like every time you go to the store and you're like, hey, I just saved $30. You're like, how come my wallet's $50 less?
Right.
Anyway.
All right,
Right.
go ahead.
I
Back
do
to you,
wanna-
Ben.
I
Again,
do
this
wanna-
is not meant
Yeah.
as a criticism
Okay.
of any of the administrative sort of, this is a
Yeah.
different thing than that. Thank you all for all of your work on this.
No, it's a reality check.
Go ahead, Ben.
I do want to give a shout out for this year, seeing the larger reimbursement to Sarah Eaton, my assistant, and Courtney Mott, our out-of-district coordinator. These numbers don't magically appear on the revenue side. There's a lot of work and a lot of invoicing and data that has to match up in terms of how IEPs are written and then how invoicing is done, and then all gets submitted to the state. So it's not an automatic, thing. And I think, in my opinion, the increase over the last 3 years, I think, is due to the hard work of Sarah Eaton and Courtney Mott. So I want to give them credit for that. Last bullet point, similar to Chapter 402, that's court-placed. We'll cover that on the next slide. There is a cap that the state establishes, which is 3.5 times the average pure pupil cost, and that is $75,000 roughly this year. So we will, the state will reimburse us anything over $75,000 for students that are extraordinarily costly. That makes sense. They'll give us a proration of that, right? All right, I think we can go to the next slide.
Sorry, actually, I have a question about that.
Yes.
That is higher than the number you mentioned in the Education Committee, that the prorate used to be less than $75,000. Now this is slightly higher of the cap. Is that right, that the cap slightly changed?
I think I may have been mentioning there's two caps.
Okay.
There's cap for purposes of special ed quasi-revenue. You like that? Right? And then there's court-placed caps.
Okay.
So the next slide I covers the other type of cap. Tyler, if you may, thank you. And so this is students that are court-placed. They are placed unilaterally by the state. We don't have much say over that. We do have some say over where they are placed. We have to ensure that it's an appropriate setting. That's really our obligation. And here's the caps I think you're referring to, and I included the history of them. These are a little bit lower, and the district pays up to, let's say, $64,000, and then the remaining bills go directly to the state of New Hampshire. So it doesn't come back in the form of reimbursement. It's just cost savings once you hit cap.
I think you're correct that this was the number I was thinking. Thank you.
Okay, good. I think that...
Next slide.
Yeah, I think that's it for that one. I thought I had another thought. Oh yeah, I included some nice little graphs here. This year we're trying to up our game. And so this is just a visual representation of the caps. You can see that they go up pretty consistently every year. No new information, just in a different format. Next slide. And here you can see also very just a visual representation from last year this year to what we anticipate for 26, 27. In terms of students out of district, whether it's foster, placed by the state, or court placed. Yeah, and I think that's it. Any other questions?
Yeah, one quick question. The special education aid, the cap of 75,408, that's for non-placed students who are extremely expensive to educate, or that's for a different kind of placed students?
Really where that number comes from is the state puts out an average pure pupil cost every year. Mm-hmm. And then they just multiply that, whatever that number is, times 3.5, and that's your cap. And so you could have a student attending in district that, let's say, has a lot of services that cost $90,000. We would be eligible for reimbursement from 75 to 90. Right.
Okay, so say a student has like, how's that calculated? If you've got like, if they've got like a whole support team that is also shared amongst other students, do you prorate their time? How does that work?
That's a great question. The reason we almost always talk about out-of-district students relative to special ed aid is because typically those are the only students that ever meet cap, right? But there are rare instances where you might have a student that has a full-time registered nurse with them, right? Which is very rare. That would allow us to receive reimbursement for that child more than likely.
So do INP students ever reach the cap?
Not since I've been here. There's, again, this is something Sarah and I talked about when I came on, but Sarah Eaton. But there were 1 or 2 students in district that we felt might be close to cap, meaning we might be able to get a little reimbursement if they came in over that. But it's pretty few and far between.
I was just thinking because of the cost of a para plus the health insurance costs for the para plus.
I follow you, Ash. Sorry, I'm with you. Let me answer it in a different way.
Yeah.
What we have to submit to the state in order to get the reimbursement is essentially what we're looking at are the services prescribed on an IEP. So if the prescription, if you will, is one-on-one paraeducator, and we say they're $72,000, plus reading intervention support from a special educator 2 hours a week, we would do the per diem on that, and then we could get to that cap. But
Okay.
it's based on that prescription, if you will.
Right.
And the invoicing and the bills.
And this is why, what are their names?
Sarah Eaton and Courtney Mott.
Are so useful and key.
They're wonderful. I told Sarah that I was going to be shouting her out today.
Well,
And I told her to
Thank you
watch.
to both of them for all their work.
Good. I absolutely will. Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Ben? Thank you very much. It's really helpful. Appreciate it.
All right, a couple other things, I'm sorry. In front of you is your budget binder, and, there's really, we've all been talking about this. My computer. So, we don't go over this tonight really, but just some orienting things. The one thing that really bugs me is that I usually tell you what this budget means for your taxes. I have not been able to do that. The city has, maybe you know more about this, but the city has requested an extension from the state based on their assessment stuff till December 1st. I just pled to Amy if she could try to, I don't know if she can work her magic and get the city to work a little quicker, but we need to know, before I can give you anything accurate, we got to know what the tax rate is this year, and I got to know the assessed value of everything. It's not just what the city's assessed value is. The education assessed value is a little different. That's why it has to go through the state and go through the equalized value stuff. So I hope, I don't know what we're going to do if I don't have something for you on Saturday, but this does not have a predicted tax. I thought about running it through the last assessed value. That's a bad idea. So you're just going to have to be patient.
I feel like, when has this ever happened before?
Never since I've been here.
I
but they
just,
asked an
I am sort of looking at, I went online to try to dig around and see if I could find anything, and there's nothing. And part of me is how are we going to have a budget meeting
So our,
on the Saturday without this this is sort of a,
our rep at the Department of Revenue is actually, I think she's the person in charge, but she's also in charge of the city. She was giving me the scoop that they got this extension. And I talked to her, our stuff is all set, ready to go. I know, just basically the revenue, some of the stuff we were just talking about. And she hasn't married it with the city. So until and unless that piece gets done, we don't have a full picture. So this, I know it's not a good answer. I don't like it either. I've been waiting, you can ask Amy, I've been waiting as long as possible. It is what it is.
well, it's sort of, this is kind of a question, I think, for Lil and Amy. Do we postpone the meeting?
We have, one of our problems is that because of when our budget is scheduled, right, we have a certain time where we have to have everything ready because of warrant articles and they have to be published and has to be done. We have pushed towards that every year since I've been on later and later and later because we've worked tighter and tighter and tighter budgets, which means we do have some wiggle room, but the problem is we run into holidays. We run into December pretty quickly, and no one's here. And then we come back and we have January, and really we have to have it done by January 30th as or January 15th.
We have to have a public, great question. We have to
Yeah.
have a budget public hearing. I don't have the exact date, but somewhere around the middle of January,
Yeah.
January 15th. So you have to have a budget to present to the voters by then. So some districts don't do most districts I don't think do a Saturday thing like we do. We inherited that kind of like it. What they do is they meet like every week through November and December, taking time off for Thanksgiving. So the other option is that you meet a lot. So I guess the short answer is that postponing it might help, but
I mean,
it's not really
it's
gonna help that
unclear to
much.
me, like, how we're gonna be able to come up with a clear understanding of what it is that we are asking for without a clear picture of what we're dealing with.
We might have a budget, we might have a
We might,
tax rate.
but if they've asked for an extension until December 1st or after, we might not. And
But that's
so,
the extension runs out on December 1st. Jamie was saying from DRA was saying, hopefully we can push them to get.
Okay, so,
Anyway,
do we come up with a backup plan?
yeah,
Do
I mean, I think that's what we
like-
need to do. We need to talk, because we just barely found out that
Yeah.
they were getting an extension. We didn't know this before, right? So, we just knew they were late, but we didn't know that is gonna be later.
We also have the joint meeting next week.
Right, we have a
with
joint
the-
meeting with the city council next, so,
I will call him tomorrow and just see what his projections, and then speak with Lil and John, and
and I'll
then-
probably email you all, and we'll get side. I mean, the thing is that there are a couple different ways we can do it. We could, like Tim is saying, we could split it up over many days. We could also do like 2 shorter sessions, and the problem is this is happening at the same time as the city too, and so I want the taxpayers to be actually able to come, and one thing that's been good about doing the Saturdays is that we're not conflicting with city budget meetings, which are simultaneously happening right now, and so although we could find other days that they're not doing it and schedule, it's just we're gonna have to look at calendars and figure that out if possibility. So yeah, I think we do need to come with a plan. I do not have it right now.
Yeah, no, I think it's just like, it sounds like this is all, like, we've gotten a bunch of information within the last few days. So this is not like it's just like,
Yeah.
what do we do now? I think it
Yeah.
feels like it's gonna be pretty tough to have the kind of granular conversation about what we're asking for without the full picture. And it sounds like we may not have the picture in time. And if that's the case, it feels like, I'm not sure it feels right to just sort of say like, oh, well, it feels like we probably would want to have more information in order to consider our budget. And so if we can come up with an alternative plan, once we have a little more information, I think that
I have a question.
makes sense.
What is affected in this packet that does not include the prorate? Is it just that kind of final number of what we're expecting to have?
The tax rate?
The
is that what
tax rate, yes. I said prorate, I meant tax rate. Wrong words.
I mean, nothing on what you're spending, but it's like the answer to a math equation. It's,
you're- The effect.
right.
Okay.
So we're gonna say, this is how much money, based on the revenue projections that are in here, this is how much additional tax money you need to raise based off of what's being raised this year. The based off part, we don't have.
So we've had in the past, like what we've done and what we do like in P&N meetings, et cetera, is like we'll have a little spreadsheet up on the screen, and it'll say like, here's the, here's a dollar figure in terms of the budget that we're looking at. If we were to get this budget, here's the amount of money that it would cost on a house that, is assessed at $300,000, $500,000, $1 million. Here's the, is it $50 more? Is it $500 more? Like, we can actually look at that and know what we're asking our taxpayers to fund individually. I think without the tax rate, we can't do that.
Let me be more precise. We could have a pretty good 90% estimate of how much revenue we need to raise additionally. The denominator divided by what is the total value of the piece.
And has this been affected by the reassessments?
That's
That-
why.
Yeah.
That's why the delay?
That's why.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so other things, as you know, there are no pre-reduced things in here, just sort of conversation. Healthcare came in at, already, I'm sure you know, but 19.6% for the yellow plans. The green plan was slightly lower than that, but that's so few people that, everyone's in here at the rate they are, whether you're green or not. But 19.6 is really effective. And what is due is updated. I keep looking at the revenues. We usually get a final, like a more up-to-date revenue thing from the Department of Education sometime this weekish. So There may be some tweaks to the revenue sheet, hopefully the tax rate. I'm working on the default, so I'll be bringing that to the meeting. And then maybe some minor expenditure change. There's always something that seems like, hey, you didn't put that in, so.
We will need to put in a number for open enrollment.
Yeah, there's a
by
line in there for
laws.
open enrollment, but there's no, I don't think I put any money in. And I don't know what to put, but that's the kind of stuff. Any other questions about that? This is for your perusal.
I will say, just as a word, most of the time, we always have a letter or a chart or something from each of the building administrators as part of this. They've really regularized those so that they're all the same format this year, and they're all explained in the same way. So that should make it easier for you to get the high-level picture of things. That's going to be each of the schools and then the district-wide packets. And then, of course, the numbers that go along with that will be there as well, but it just depends on how you engage with spreadsheets. It's up to you. But some people appreciate that there's the letters are going to be more informative than they have been in the past, so that's helpful.
Yeah, every school has, the green sheets you're used to, has a printout from the budget of all the notes, has like a pivot table by object and function, just so you can, it's the same numbers in that cover sheet, so.
And we really want to highlight the drivers of these budgets, so you'll look at the impacts for wages and health benefits and anything that we thought was driving a budget higher, or if we saw reductions, we wanted to note that as well.
And then finally, this kind of goes with that, I usually start doing expenditure report at the conclusion of November. Lil had asked to see kind of where we are now. So the expenditure report you have in front of you is through the 12th today. We are, it's not great news, it's not bad news, not great news. Like we are more expended this year, expended and encumbered. It's not everything just expended. Like we're trying to do even better at encumbering things right away. So we are more, the last 2 years we were 90.39 and 90.25, and this year we're 91.97. So we're more encumbered and expended this year than in previous years. You know, as a BA, the first thing I do is like, oh no. But when I start digging into it, we ended last year before projects. So last year, this time, at the end of November last year, we had 5.3 left. This year we have 4.4 left. But we ended last year with 1.6 million before we did projects stuff, so that's okay. It is relevant to this budget book in that, and I think you're going to be okay there, but I'm going to be advocating that the number that you approve assumes a fund balance contribution from this year of far less than $1 million, for a decade. And I think it needs to be like 300,000, to be honest with you. That's the tax rate. Everything, again, all flows together. So we'll talk more about that when I show you then.
I think that goes into the conversation too that will be happening next of school care. I know at our last, sorry Tim, at our last meeting, you asked me to reach out to the 90 other school districts that were facing a similar bill. I connected with quite a few of them. At no point is anyone really interested in the legal pursuit. But there is some movement around getting a letter written and signed. So I did speak with another superintendent who was able to attend a lot of the school care meetings and even had a meeting with them and really expressed concerns about the lack of transparency and communication that they had over the last year. They did articulate to him that their actuaries misprojected. And this is sort of what happened, was to see why we all saw this large increase. So they have since gone to get a new actuary, which is good, but these are all good communications that should be actually sent out to all of us so we could share that with the community. He also suggested that there's 2 meetings twice a year for school boards and superintendents and with school care, so we can have a pulse on what's going on with that insurance. So before I kick it over to Tim, and I know Lil had spoken is there too, is that, you know, we're continuing to explore other options too and researching other insurances for the future for the district, which I think is important. So I'll give it to Lil and
Yeah.
then Tim to kind of give us where we
Just
are with the bill.
Just a quick update from my end. So same as Amy, I had reached out to school board chairs to ask what was their comfort with pursuing options or getting more transparency. Like Amy said, I've heard from, and I had 25 different school board chairs sort of sign on to say, yes, we're interested in doing something. Almost all of them are planning on paying, but almost all of them are looking either and/or looking for additional something else to replace school care and looking for additional transparency about the process and what to do. And so they are in favor, again, as Amy was saying, of doing a letter to sort of try and shake the tree and get more information. And I think that has been, they have had some of these school districts have had care representatives come to them. They've asked them the very same questions that we had asked, and they said it was a lot of stonewalling and a lot of like, we either don't know the answer to that question or we're not going to tell you the answer to that question. So there's a lot of frustration on the part of school boards all around the district, all around the state about this. So I think if we do decide to write a letter, that will be at least these 25 districts will jump on board to say we need more, and we have to prevent it from happening in the future.
So I actually have a question about the timeline for this payment.
I'm going to, hopefully Tim's next statement, we can
Sorry,
address that.
jumping
You just actually opened that door right for him, so.
Yeah, so originally they said pay it all by December 31st, or else we'd start getting accruing interest. At their most recent presentation they gave to us last week, they're proposing a third before January with the submittal of what a payment plan would be before the end of June.
But
So,
they would still
I-
charge us interest on anything else?
That's what I think. I believe it's interest-free if you do a payment plan, right? So they would not. Well, that's why I
But
would-
does the payment plan guarantee that you, are you promising to pay the rest of it in the payment
Yes.
plan?
yes.
I don't know about that. I want to know how much of what they're charging us is to make up for expenditures. How much of it is for future spending that I don't think they can rightfully ask us for if we're not going to be staying with school care.
Right, so those questions, those exact questions, are the questions that we had talked about in our, at one point, and the questions that I sent to these school board chairs, and one of them got my email and took it to their meeting with their personal meeting with school care and asked them those exact questions, and they don't have answers. There's no answers. So at least that was what they were told. So this is kind of why we have to push, because at this point, there hasn't been any answers about any of that.
I guess I would add, I'm just thinking, like, I like the idea of paying a third and then a third in March and a third at the end of the year or something, because that may allow, hopefully, it would allow us to not have to tap the whole contingency fund
That would let us
based on.
budget.
What's that?
That would allow us to include that in next year's budget.
No, so,
At least part of it.
right, so we would, if we did that, I would take the contingent, I tap the contingency fund and pay the first third.
Yeah.
And then as the year goes on, we see how these expenditures are going. You know, if there's room in the healthcare budget, maybe I can pay some or all of it out of the regular budget, and it wouldn't take all of your contingency fund. I mean, it is 6 of one, half a dozen. So if you take all the contingency fund and you have lots of money left into the year, that can replenish the contingency fund. So it's again, it's a counting game. But the point is if we pay a third, like a third, or something like that, that gives us time to figure out how we're going to pay the rest of it.
Yeah, it just buys us time, sort
Correct.
of like, which is a very good thing.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about the legality of it.
I mean, this would buy us time to,
I think that's TBD, honestly.
right,
Like,
like I think
Right,
that
but if we sign a payment plan that says we promise we are going to pay the rest of it, that'll supersede
we've
the legality
already,
of it all.
we've already, no, because we've already agreed, I mean, like, we are on the hook for this money. Like, that's the
And
reality.
That's the question.
But the
And so-
legality, that particular question, no
Right.
lawyers have said there's any legal standing
Yeah,
for that question.
there's no
So
real
we can't get a
question there.
lawyer to ask that question because they believe that there isn't a
Right.
question, which I, like, emotionally disagree with, but legally I feel like I have to agree with them because that's what they are saying.
I also think it's a key point that the regulator of the risk pools, the Secretary of State, believes that school care is doing exactly the way he thinks it needs. The regulator wants him to do it that way. So,
Right. And I think even if you believed emotionally or otherwise that this is something that we really should push on legally, you're going to spend more in legal fees fighting it than you're going to save in, I mean, like, so I think it's just,
If you can get a lawyer.
if you, right, that's what I mean. Like, it just sort of practically
I don't
speaking,
know,
there's not much.
$1 million for a lawyer goes a long way.
Well, it wouldn't necessarily, if we pay on a payment plan, it's not necessarily $1 million. It's, so I think,
That's exactly what the payment plan is. We will be paying that $1 million. That's what the payment plan is to play. Is there a reduction
I don't,
in pay
I
we can
I
get
feel
on
like
the
we
payment
don't,
plan?
we
No,
don't,
it's
I'm
for
not
the
sure.
full amount.
I'm not sure, I mean, I think we're saying that we've gotten a change, which is they're no longer saying, give us $1 million yesterday, right now. They're
Lessened.
saying, give us some, a third by a certain time. That's a little bit easier to swallow. This is money that we're on the hook for. We haven't been able to get anybody to say there's a realistic path forward to fight that. I feel like, practically speaking, really all we've got at this point is to kind of keep asking questions, try to kind of carry that conversation forward, which we're doing with the letter and the sort of engagement that you guys are in. So that's happening. And see if anything else develops. But then I think beyond that, our best route forward is looking at our alternatives. Like that's, and we are doing that. And like, those are conversations that are happening. And so I think that's what we got.
To be clear, Lil, are you handling the letter at this point on behalf of us at this point, or Amy is?
I am working with the other superintendent, which also works at Drummond. That district contracts with Drummond. So once that letter gets shared, I can break.
And so this kind of communication is,
coming.
you guys are drafting, then it's going to each one.
Yeah,
then we're all
and then
gonna-
we'll share it to other districts that want to sign on.
Okay, just to be clear, thank you, Amy, appreciate it.
Okay. Any additional questions? Okay. All right. I'm all off of my schedule. Hold on.
Sorry, I do have an additional question.
Okay.
Where are, this is, we briefly discussed the idea of asking the voters' permission to create a healthcare fund in terms, or what would we call it? A healthcare reserve
yeah, it's
fund?
either that or, or expendable trust fund or capital reserve fund, whatever.
Right,
the
capital
legal
reserve fund or
definition
trust fund to help to sort of deal with unexpected or just healthcare, the bumpiness of healthcare costs in the future. Where are we in terms of that conversation, both internally, what role does the board need to play, and what would the timing be if we wanted to get that on the,
So what typically has happened at the board, and we could do it any way we want, but when I will bring you in the beginning of December, draft warrant articles. So it basically starts in the crazy mind of Tim Ball, and it'll be on that will be on there. Probably something I'm thinking about asking you if you want to go to the contingency. If the contingency fund had been set at 5%, like it's allowed to by law, we wouldn't have to tap it dry. So, and I'll bring it to you, and you guys can debate it throughout December. That's
Okay.
the point.
okay, so
But the language comes from the good thing about that is the language comes from the DRA's website, so that when you get the language in front of you, it's like legit, it's from a
Okay,
lawyer.
so that will come up in the course of a normal meeting because we'll be able to have a discussion. Okay, all right, great. Thank you.
Good question. Okay. We are on to our unfinished business. Second reading of policies.
The only thing that changed since the last meeting was the one we're not actually, the 9A1 we've pushed off.
We're
right?
tabling, 9A1.
So we're just going to hold that one off. So that was the only one that we modified at all.
Right.
So the others are exactly as you've seen them before. Does anyone want to pull any of them aside for further discussion? Seeing none, I move that we approve the policies listed in 9A2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Seconded.
Okay, moved by Ash, second by Joe. Additional commentary?
Just on the last page of JICLR-R, Director of Technology, not Directory of Technology.
Oh, good catch, good catch.
And then Ash will do it.
That's
Okay.
DICL-R.
Yeah.
They always slip through.
All right, while he's doing that, all those in favor? Great, unanimous. Okay, thank you. New business, we've done 10A. 10B, discuss an action approval of the authorization to use the contingency fund to pay for unanticipated school care assessment, up to $1,033,216.68. So we've discussed this already. We have additional discussion? Question?
Yes, I want to make sure I understand what it is that we're approving, because I think, what are we approving? Because I think like we've just discussed a possible timeline. I know that we had the public hearing that asked for comment on authorizing this. So I think, are we approving like a specific payment, or are we just saying like, yeah, please set the money aside?
Go ahead.
The legal mechanism says you can't spend the contingency fund money without a public hearing, and, which we did. And so what you're approving now is for me to spend the $1 million, not to pay it all up front.
So he's saying he can, we are authorizing, if we do this, we are authorizing him to pay from this fund up to this amount. What he said earlier is if we split it up into the payments, then it's potentially that it wouldn't come from this amount, it would come from other places. But we are going to authorize up to this amount so that he has the freedom to actually.
Yeah.
I mean, so
I'm going
in-
to set up an expenditure line that says
Yeah.
payment of healthcare assessment. So you'll see in these monthly reports what I've spent of that.
So, and again, this is just a clarification so I understand, like we in theory could delay approving this authorization until later because or is there a timing issue in terms of when we approve it versus when you spend it?
Have to have it approved before you make that first payment.
Correct. Unless, if I make the first payment without it being approved, then it's going to come out of the budget and I'm going to have 3 ulcers.
Right, but if we don't need to make the payment until the end of the year, it's currently November 12th.
I would have to make the first one by January 1st.
Right.
Which is
we
why I
have
asked for it
It would
today.
just give us one more board meeting to do it.
So we could, in theory, if we wanted to sort of buy ourselves a little bit more time to talk about this or think about this, I'm just clarifying, we could do that. We would still have we could still provide the authorization at a later date. So we would be choosing to do that now because and what that means is that we feel comfortable saying, yes, we're going to spend this money, and that's what we're saying.
Yes, at least a good portion of the payment has to come from this contingency fund. We don't have it in the budget.
Yeah,
And I know we have one more meeting, but then holidays break and I got to pay the bill, you know what I mean? So
yeah, it's not a question about whether we authorize it to come out of the contingency fund. It's a question about timing of when we need to do that.
Unless we have a
so that you
particular,
can-
if it's from my perspective, unless we have a particularly pressing reason to push it off, I would rather.
It sounds like we don't. I mean,
Do
it
it
sounds like
now.
you guys have had the conversations. We are not really seeing a lot of routes forward other than the one that we have.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Can we approve it with the explicit instruction to spend as little of it as Tim can get away with out of that?
I mean, I think we're going to assume that that's what he's doing, 'cause that's
Yeah.
always what he's doing. I mean, that's his actual job, so.
No, I mean,
so
specifically
I
out of the.
Did you know that was your actual job?
So I think
that's the one thing in life I'm good at is being cheap.
that's what
I
I'm
meant
saying.
specifically out of the contingency fund.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and I'm going to speak for Tim now. I think he would like to spend as little as possible out of the contingency fund so that we continue to have a contingency fund.
Agreed.
So obviously, if he has other underexpended lines, not unexpended, but underexpended lines, then he will use those.
But on the basis of this approval, he could
Use it all,
on
absolutely.
December 31st say, you know what, I've changed my mind. I'm going to pay the entire thing. I think that's part of what I'm.
So we would say we want to do it following a payment plan with that, like,
I mean, I guess,
modifying.
I think it's partly a question. Like, I sort of trust him that we've had this
I mean, I
conversation.
do
He's probably
trust
not
him.
going to do that, but I think that's
I mean, I
sort
think,
of.
yes, we do trust him, but I think we could provide an update where we are on the December 10th meeting.
Okay.
okay. Thank you.
So that means not approve it?
No, approve it tonight, and then,
With
We're
the
gonna-
understanding that we trust you to not have to
yeah,
spend
so
it
prove
without
it tonight.
consulting.
You're
and
going to
then,
keep updating us as we go
you know,
along.
again, we can get it in writing with this payment plan, no interest, because
Yeah, we have to get that
everything
part in
within
right.
writing for them.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that was, in general, we need to get in writing,
Yep.
whatever it is they're saying, because they're cray-cray. All right.
I'm going to make a motion.
That's the official term.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's the legal term.
Go ahead.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the authorization to use the contingency fund under RSA 198:4/B to pay for unanticipated school care assessment up to $1,033,216.68.
Okay, motion by John. I will second. Everyone's looking like, I'll second. Second by me. All right. Any additional questions, discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Okay, unanimous. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, next, discussion and action, approval of the resolution to authorize $269,257.44 of lease purchase financing for 2 school buses at district facility.
Me again, I'm sorry. So you approved in the budget that we're in right now, the leasing of 2 buses, and then you approved 2 more during the end of year funds. These are the buses that were in the lease. Total costs of the buses together are $269,257.44. Lease payments are $59,324. You approved $60,000. So I mentioned that this resolution is going to start coming forward for all of our leases just to protect ourselves, but this actual resolution, there's also a threshold where above which you have to have a lawyer's opinion. Obviously, we've met it. The threshold's $100,000. So this motion, if someone could read these 4 lines and approve it, would allow us to do the final reckoning with MHB leasing to lease these buses over 5 years.
I believe our vice chair is ready, if anyone else.
All set. I move that the resolution entitled Resolution to Authorize $269,257.44 of lease purchase financing of 2 school buses at district facilities be approved in form presented to this meeting, and that an attested copy of said resolution be included with the minutes of this meeting.
I'll second.
Additional questions about that? Pass this down to actual. Thank you.
Come on, it's in your packet right in front of you on page 61.
It was very long. So. Okay, any
Probably
additional?
provide a digital copy.
Huh?
You can probably find a digital copy to Kamala, so you have to retype it from the paper.
It's in the packet. She has access to it. Yeah,
In the
yeah,
online
yeah.
packet.
She has
Fantastic.
access to that. Okay, go ahead, Tim. Do you have anything else to say?
After you vote, then this gets signed by our district clerk, and
Any other questions? No. All right. Did we have a second? Sorry, Layla. Okay. Sorry, I missed that. All right. All those in favor? Unanimous. Excellent.
I do have a question for Tim on a related subject.
Sure.
How's the possible electrification going? Just lay of the land. Is it still looking ridiculously
Are you
expensive?
ready for another ulcer?
No. I'm just.
I haven't checked it out since these buses, which we actually conversed with the bus company like almost a year ago.
Yeah, I
And
figured.
they were like $450,000 a bus.
Yeah.
It's just 269s for 2 buses.
At one point, we were talking about replacing a service vehicle that wasn't a bus.
We did just buy it was in the budget, we just bought it
Yep.
outright.
What'd you get?
Chevy 3500, 1 ton. They used to call them 1 ton.
Cool. All right. I was just curious what we have in our
Our fleet.
fleet. That's
Okay.
what I was looking for. Thank you. Fleet.
Okay. All right. We're going to return to public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? I do not see any. Is there any public comment online?
There is not anyone online.
Okay. Committee updates. FNF met on October 29th. You have the minutes. Is there anything?
can say the words that are in the minutes
Okay,
again if
that's
you would
fine.
like, or
No, that's fine.
we talked about money and buildings.
Great. Policy Committee met on November 10th. The next meeting is scheduled for December 8th. Did you want to say anything about that? It's
We are
also
making real progress on actually bringing you a crowdfunding policy and a booster policy, and I'm so happy to share it with you soon.
We're getting there.
And Tim won't hate it.
We promise. All right.
Probably.
Education Committee met on October 30th. Say anything about that? Okay. You have the minutes. The minutes are here. All the minutes are here. PNN met on November 5th. About that. We'll do a non-public tonight about that. Okay. Student Wellness Advisory Committee. The next meeting is scheduled for December 4th at 8:30 a.m. at the LHS conference room. HATTC met on November 12th.
That was today. We discussed that the tuition rates are incoming.
Increasing a little.
Yes. She didn't actually say that. She just said they were incoming.
Oh, I got the email, they were increasing a little due to healthcare and benefits.
She did want us to stress that the price tag of tuition, since these are half-time students, is not the full tuition amount, it's the half the tuition amount. That the sticker price. Because it looks
Yep.
like you're spending $20,000 a student per year, but actually you're spending that over 2
Right,
years,
we
basically.
budget 65 students at 15 grand, which would be 30 for a full day, and maybe that can come down at their 20. If we can get a tuition number, we can make it the actual number.
That would be great. Yes, and also we talked about the schedule, and she'll be providing after some horse trading, we'll be providing an updated potential schedule. She said it would be schedule draft 10.
She provided, like 4 of us to look at, so Karen Dubois has made 4 different schedules. Some of their start dates were much later than what we've been used to, so, but we do think we're going to be close to the start date where we were this year. Fingers crossed.
Okay. All right. Area, the next meeting is scheduled for February 17th, LMS Cafeteria. The School District City Task Force is meeting next week, November 20th at 6 p.m. at City Hall. And we'll be meeting more frequently than quarterly going forward. The Housing Task Force, next meeting is scheduled for next week, November 17th at 8:15 a.m. Future agenda items, board member recommendations or questions?
If we could get a consensus on the correspondence that was sent tonight.
Yes, thanks.
I would like to respond back to Mr. Edmonds.
Yes.
I just had one thought. I mean, I guess this is the question about the Boys and Girls Guide and the architectural blah, blah, blah stuff. Sorry, it's after 8 o'clock. The one thing that I don't have a problem with it. To me, it seems fine to have people look at things. That doesn't guarantee anything. It just says, sure, you want to look at some stuff? Fine. I would say if they are willing to share the results of the report that they get, because that would be a nice way for us to get a little bit more information from some professionals about in terms of the assessment of our building and our land. So
Sure, I can include that, and I did mention that we did not want to fund any part of this, and that this wouldn't guarantee us committing to anything as
Yeah.
well. And we are committed to working through the SAU Exploratory Committee,
Yeah.
so I think the timeline is fine as well. But I think that's a great addition, is that we get,
yeah,
we're
just
shared
that,
the
and I
results.
think that could be a condition of
Yeah.
allowing. I think
Absolutely.
it should be a condition that like
I
we
can make
we
that
also receive the full report of whatever they get.
Yeah. So the consent.
Oh, I agree. You actually said everything I was
Okay.
interested in. Thank you.
Okay, so what is the consensus? So we
I will
we
respond that
can let them
yes,
go? Okay.
that we, no cost, no commitment, but we get a
We
full
get your
copy.
results, and that sounds
I
good.
also think just, I know the city did express interest, but they have only at this point expressed interest. It sounds like my only concern is what we can provide because they're on an accelerated timeline. So if that's something that we can't make happen, that's something that we can't make happen, but they're welcome to explore. I do think that it's always in our best interest to have more options than not, and it's a great organization.
Great. Okay.
That's all I
Okay,
need.
perfect. All right. Our next school board meeting maybe our annual budget meeting on November 22nd at 8 a.m. to be determined. We'll see what happens next. And then we do need to go into a short non-public. When we return, this is for people online, when we return, we will just be closing the meeting. So you can wait or you can leave now. So we need a roll call vote to go into non-public, and John's going to give a motion for it.
I make a motion to go into non-public session under RSA 91-A:3, 2J.
Seconded.
Okay, motion by John, second by Jessica. Jessica? Yes?
Yes.
Yes? Ash?
Yes.
Tia?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Joe?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Layla?
Yes.
Okay. You going in at 8:10. I'd like to call the school board meeting back to order at 8:30. What is that? 8:38. 38. Okay. I need a motion to
So moved.
adjourn. Okay, Ash, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Joe. All those in favor?